think that men have the biggest egos I have ever seen. Hey ladies, my name is Stephanie. Welcome back to my channel. This video is going to be all about the 10 things I think every wife needs to do for her husband. And I feel like being a good wife or being a good spouse, it comes with sacrifice, it comes with a level of commitment. And it's the greatest form, the greatest lesson that you'll ever learn in servantship and being a servant. And I think when we think about the word servant, it has like this derogatory definition. It's saying like you have to be a slave or you are a maid or something like that, but that's totally not true. To me, it's actually a mindset of how can I help you. It's a mindset of being selfless, and I think in marriage, hands down, being selfless is what's going to propel and make your marriage thrive. I am a testament of that. I've been married for 9 years and I've learned a lot about being a wife in those 9 years, and I'm ever so learning what makes our relationship and marriage successful and helps my husband to thrive, not just as a husband, but outside the home as well. There are some things that I would need to do as his wife, as his helpmeet, in order for him to be able to thrive at work and in other relationships that he has as well. So with all that being said, these are some of the things I think that every wife needs to do for her husband. And the first thing I want to talk about is affirm him. I think that men have the biggest egos I have ever seen. And that's not a negative thing. I just think that's just how they're wired. Like they just need that affirmation. They need to be affirmed. And I think that sometimes we as women don't know the power of our mouth. We don't know, like, sometimes how our words can cut our husbands, and it can discourage him. And a lot of times men don't show that. They show a lot of emotions through anger or whatever. And so I think that being able to, stroke his ego every now and then is not a bad thing. Like, you want him to be encouraged. You want him to be confident at work and in other relationships in his life. So I think there's nothing wrong with affirming him and letting him know that he's doing a good job, that he is a good man, that he is a good provider, that he is a good husband. Does wonders for him as a human being and him as a husband. So the second thing I think that every wife needs to do for her husband is respect him. And respect goes both ways, of course, but as a wife, I've seen a lot in my experience of like in relationships and being around people in relationships, that the woman just doesn't respect her husband. And I'm not saying that the husband should not respect the wife. And how you respect your husband is by respecting yourself. So you're not going to be out in public looking a certain way or acting a certain way, because you are always going to be representing your husband wherever you are. And so I think that respecting him in front and behind his back is huge. And also, when you are not in the presence of your husband, also respecting him as well. So that means not talking bad to him to other people, not putting him down to other people while he's not there. That is also a form of respecting your husband, so that when this person gets in the company of your husband, it's kind of giving them permission to disrespect him, because that's what y'all been doing behind his back. So I think that it's important to recognize those areas of disrespect. Showing respect is just a form of trust as well. So I feel like you have to learn to trust in his decisions, trust in his leadership. And I think from there, we can form a level of respect for our husband. Which leads me into the next thing that I think that every wife needs to do for her husband is follow his lead. I think we need to learn the value of the be quiet, okay? Be quiet. Like, sometimes I have to catch myself. And I'm not saying that we should never voice our opinion, never voice what we think and how we feel, but sometimes I feel like, for me personally, I can just just like, yeah, I think. When sometimes I just need to be quiet and let him lead, let him be a man. Basically, just let him lead, trust in his decisions, trust in his leadership, and go from there. Like, you have to trust. You have to trust your husband in order for him to lead and guide the family in the way that it should go, and trust that he can provide. Because when we're always like suggestion and saying and I thinks and all this type of stuff, just sit back and be along for the ride. Of course, a disclaimer: if you see things are not going how they should be going, and if you have some type of gut feeling about whatever decision he made and it's not the right decision, and you can see where it's going, then of course, yes, communicate that with your husband. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, but I'm saying if he is making good decisions, they are good decisions, he's made them before, then I think that sometimes we just need to learn the value of the hush. Following his lead will definitely allow him to just be a man, allow him to lead, and allow you to just sit in the role that you are called to sit in as his wife. So the first thing I think that every wife needs to do for her husband is to dress up for him. So for me, I work from home, my husband works outside the home, and I'm not always put together when he comes home. But for the most part, I make an attempt to be presentable. I make an attempt to look nice when he walks through the door, not always have my scarf on or whatever the case may be, because he's outside the home, he's battling whatever at work. He wants to come home to something that looks nice, okay? He wants to still see you in your nice clothes, in your nice hair or makeup or whatever you do to look nice. I think that he appreciates that more. I think that it's something that he can look forward to with coming home. Even with going to bed, I got to a point before where I was just putting on anything in the bed. My nightgowns were starting to look raggedy, until I'm like, you know what? He still wants to see me in a nice nightgown, some nice pajamas, even if they're like pajamas or whatever. Still make them look nice slippers, just kind of dress up. Don't forget to still date your husband, because it's like when we first met our husbands, we always wanted to make sure we looked good. We always wanted to make sure our outfits was good, our outfits were good, and things like that. And so I think that it's important to just continue to date your husband. And so by dressing up for him, then he will definitely appreciate that more, and it will give him something to look forward to when coming home. And then that kind of brings me into the next point of what I think that every wife needs to do for her husband, and that is prioritize self-care. Now, I think that our husbands want to have a healthy wife. We want to give him a healthy wife, inside and out. And self-care to me is that internal inner work, because we are ever changing. We go through things in life. We have rough seasons in our marriage, and just all types of stuff that we need to deal with and we need to heal from. And I think that each spouse, it's our responsibility to heal. We have to take responsibility for our own healing as a spouse. And so for me, that is prioritizing self-care. So whenever I feel like something is off about me, whenever I need to talk, of course I communicate with my husband, but I also seek outside therapy as well. I also journal. I also seek spiritual guidance. These things not only help me to heal from my own personal trauma, but it also helps the marriage thrive, and it also helps give my husband a healthier and happier version of me, so that in turn he can give me the same things, because I cannot give to my husband what I don't have to give to myself. So if I'm not happy, if I'm not healthy within, then I'm not giving him all of the things that he needs to thrive and survive in life and in our marriage, and vice versa. So prioritizing self-care is essential for a marriage, essential for a wife. And I think that the more we grow individually, the more we're able to allow our marriages to grow as well. So let me put a pause here and ask you, out of the 5 things I mentioned so far, which one do you think that you need to work on more? And if anything comes to mind that you feel like every wife needs to do for her husband, put that down in the comments below and let's discuss it. Love to know your opinions about that as well. If you are looking for more content on wifehood and wellness, I did create a blog. It's stephanieshavon.com. The link is down in the description box below. And also subscribe to my email list so you never miss out on the next blog or the next upload on my YouTube channel. So the next thing I think that every wife needs to do for her husband is to really learn and ask him what his needs are. Sometimes I feel like we can get into this mode of guessing or this mode of just doing what we think is right, and actually specifically really asking him, what is it that you need from me? Is there anything that you need from me right now? How are you doing today? And really ask those really intentional questions of, what do you need? What do you need from me? How are you feeling? Because again, I think that sometimes men get caught up in just going and having like this tunnel vision of doing what he needs to do to provide or whatever, and kind of forget of tapping into those feelings of what he needs and what he's feeling at the moment. So I think that asking him what he needs really provides and creates an environment for him to share, an environment for you to bond even more. So the next thing I think that every wife needs to do for her husband is to make the home his palace. Make it a home. Learning the art of homemaking is a very important skill for every wife. I'm not saying that you have to be Martha Stewart or anybody, but I think that learning some skills, some homemaking skills, will definitely help make the house a home. And I take pride in making my house feel like a home, feel like welcoming, feel peaceful, feel like a place where he can come from a long day of work and just relax, somewhere that he wants to come, like something that he's looking forward to at the end of his job. This his sanctuary. Like when he walks in the door, it's just a solace for him. It's peaceful for him. And I really just pride myself on being able to do that. And it's very important to me that he comes home to a clean home. He comes home to a cooked meal. I'm not always cooking every night though, but I always find something to eat. But he eats every day, okay? It's not always home cooked, but he eats, okay? But anyway, I take pride in, just helping him out in that area, because again, he goes through a lot, as women do as well. But I feel like as my job as a wife is to make sure that at least his home is in tip-top shape, or at least his home is somewhere that he can come and relax in and just feel peace and at peace. And not only that, but be his peace. That is the next thing I think every wife needs to do for her husband, is to be his peace. Like, he doesn't want to come home to a wife that is in a mood, has an attitude, not kind, not friendly, just really out of sorts with it all. I mean, don't add another level of frustration to all of the rest of his problems. And this is not to say that you shouldn't be able to go to him with the problems and concerns that you have in your own personal life or within the marriage, but I think it's a part of finding the right time and finding balance. Like, if you always have complaints about something, if you're always like a Debbie Downer or something like that, if you're always going to him with a problem instead of going to him with a day that was good, or talking to him about the good day that you had rather than always talking to him about your bad days, then I think that it's not going to add a level of peace to his life that he may be looking for. So I think that comes with self-care as well. Like I talked about in a previous point, how prioritizing self-care is very important as a wife and as a spouse, rather, in a marriage, because you always want to add to your spouse. You always want to fulfill them and make them be able to flourish in their personal lives, not take things from them and tear them down and things like that because of your own personal issues. So by us prioritizing that self-care, it allows us to personally develop and grow and mature, which in turn allows us to be his peace. The next thing I want to talk about, which I think every wife needs to do for her husband, is to write him a little love note. I think that is so cute. Just the cutest little gesture that you can make to let him know that you are thinking about him throughout the day, that you are thinking about him, you know, when he's at work, and just a way to also affirm him, to allow him to know that he is doing a good job, to encourage him in whatever that he's going through. And so it's like, there's nothing like, you know, going through your bag or your lunch bag and like you make your husband's lunch, then that's a great opportunity to slip in a cute little love note. And there's nothing like him like randomly finding it in his lunch bag in the middle of his day to just brighten up his day, because you never know what he's going through during his day. Love notes are a really cute and romantic way to just let your husband know that you're thinking about him. And it kind of also takes me back to the mindset of like when we started dating, like how it was just so like warm and just romantic and just really continuing to date my husband. I think that's just so important to the health of our marriage. So leaving little love notes have just always been my thing, and I know that my husband loves them, and he even started leaving them for me. So I think that what I do or what we do as wives really influences our husbands to do the same things or just to be better, because he started leaving like little love notes for me, and I'm like, okay, that's good. You know, I was able to kind of just organically show him how I love him, and in turn he did it for me. And so I thought that was a great thing, and just really shows how much influence we can have as wives. So the next thing I think that every wife needs to do for her husband is to ask him about his day, and not just ask him just as a cliche statement, but really ask and really pay attention to what he's saying. Like, and don't just let him give you that little cliche answer like, oh, it was good, or I had a bad day, or whatever. Really ask questions, really engage in what he's talking about, and really ask those follow-up questions, or like the next couple days, really like try to remember what he said about his day that, you know, day before, and really ask follow-up questions. This not only allows you to bond more, it allows you to open up in an environment where he can come to talk to you about what he's really going through throughout the day. Like, you can really have a good understanding of what his workplace is like, what he's like at work, and what he's dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And that way I feel like you'll be able to help him more in some areas. In some areas that he may not ask you that he need help in, you'll be able to fulfill that, knowing that he's going through. It's like if he mentions like, oh, I'm so busy at work, I don't even have time to go out and get a lunch for work, then that could be our opportunity to say, hey, I have a little bit more time on my hands. Maybe I can start making your lunch in the mornings or whatever, so that you can have a lunch there already prepared for you, and you can just eat it at your desk or whatever. So I think that really listening to his day and really like engaging in the conversation will allow an opportunity for you to help and meet his needs, even when he's not even asking you to help. The last thing I want to talk about, and this is a bonus tip, and I think that this is the most important thing that every wife will need to do for her husband, it is to pray over him. There's nothing like a wife's prayers over her husband. I'm telling you, they work. I truly believe in the power of prayer. I have journals of just prayers for my husband. And I also found this book that I wanted to share with you all. It's called 31 Prayers for My Husband by Jennifer Smith. And I just want to say that this book has helped me tremendously. I really love that these are praying over specific areas in his life, like his job, his family, his mind, his heart, everything. And it's really broken down into just praying over different areas of his life. And I just really thought that was neat, because sometimes I feel like we can get into this generalized prayer, which is nothing wrong with that. So I want to make sure that I cover all areas. So I think that this book really helps think outside the box and really help us to pray specific areas of his life. And if you're interested in this book, I'll leave the link down in the description box. I got this book on Amazon a long time ago. Like, if you can see, it's, you know, it's kind of messed up, but yeah, I thought this book was really a really good resource for wives. So thanks so much for watching this video. I hope it encouraged every wife to really think about her role and give you some of the things that I think that every wife needs to do for her husband. Just not only to better the marriage, but make you a better person. There's nothing like being a blessing to somebody else. It just makes you feel so much better about yourself. So leave down in the comments anything else that you think every wife needs to do for her husband, and if any of these things that you want to start doing for your husband, let me know down in the comments as well. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you again in my next one. Bye bye. Mom and dad's only daughter, do